Hi there, my name is Chuck Rozanski and I own Pueblo Treasures, which is a museum and also my personal collection of Pueblo pottery. And I have a lot of people who come here and visit and they simply cannot take it all in a day. I have over 11,000 pieces, so I thought that today that I would do sort of a slow motion tour through my Hopi and San Ildefonso areas and just kind of give you an idea of what I have. But I'm gonna try and go slow. That way, if you want to look at an individual piece, you can do a freeze frame. For example, those two, those are bookends up there. Those kachina heads, the only pair of bookends I've ever seen. Cookie jars, I believe, if I remember correctly, they're Sadie Adams. There's one of Nampeyo's grotesques there in the center. Really cool canteen from the collection of Bob Whiteside, also quite possibly Nampeyo. Another grotesque down here that it was sold to me as Nampeyo. I'm pretty sure they were right. There's actually a lot of Nampeyos kind of scattered in amongst here, but most people don't realize that Nampeyo, aside from doing her wonderful Sityaki revival pieces, also did a lot of figural work. You know, back in those days, they were trying to make a buck, and so, you know, anything that would sell, and people going all the way out to Hopi, there was no train out to Hopi, so it was all truck and wagon, you know, and by truck, I mean sort of like Model A trucks, and but mostly wagons in the earliest days. And so the early material, they had to work to carry it out. There's some newer material in here, obviously, of course. There's some Nathan the Gaze down at the bottom. Nathan was quite a genius, was of Hopi and Dene background. But as you start looking in here, you just see all sorts of things that you'll never see anywhere else because, well, first of all, museums have had to really cut back on what they can show because anything that they don't have permission to show under the new NAGPRA rules, they can't put out on display. I'm exempt because I take no public money. This is all funded out of my own pocket. And so there's a specific exemption carved out in NAGPRA. So I can show things that may have at one time been used in a ceremonial basis, but which ended up somehow out in the open marketplace. And there's a lot. I mean, there's just so much stuff. But one of the problems with the NAGPRA update that they did was that it allows anyone in a tribal council or any lineal descendant, like, you know, anybody from the Nampeyo family can say, hey, I don't want anything by my grandmother, great-grandmother, whatever, shown. And the law says lineal descendants can object. And so it's really broad and a little bit crazy. But it's the pendulum swinging in the opposite direction because for the longest time, Native people couldn't even get back the bones of their ancestors that had been taken by archaeologists. And so they're still trying to get back some of the human remains. So I don't take a position one way or another. I will tell you, though, that if you come to the Pueblo Treasures Museum on a visit, that you'll get to see things that you can't see anymore in a public context. A lot of places have shut down either temporarily or permanently. I went to take a look at the Earl Morris collection up at the University of Colorado, and it's under renovation, the dreaded under renovation, and that means that it may never come back out again, because Earl kept pretty good notes, and most of the stuff that he found between 1920 and 1950 was associated with burials, which is forbidden now, and so a lot of that material has to be returned, and that really gets difficult because the University of Colorado, for example, has one of the largest collections of membranes, bowls in the world. And what's going to happen to those? Are they going to get smashed up and buried? There are some people who advocate for that because they were originally burial objects. I'm hoping that cooler heads will prevail and that some sort of reasonable compromise can be reached. But in the meantime, oh my God, interesting stuff here. I'm just going to focus on this, for example. This is a cornmeal box, an actual cornmeal box that was done by Priscilla Naminga Nampeo, and it was a special request by a really nice man from San Diego who was friends with her and asked her to make that. But in general, they don't make cornmeal boxes at Hopi. I have a couple of ceremonial kind of boxes. There's some up in my box area. Some of the pottery that's up here came from a strange place in Bernalillo, which is just north of Albuquerque. There was a huge refugee pueblo there in that really got going around 1450 as the hinterlands were being raided and burned up, and there was just open warfare out there. And that pueblo is kind of sandwiched in between Sandia and Santa Ana and San Felipe. And so this particular trading post, when they shut down, they had about 200 plainware bowls, some of them relatively recent, but some of them very old and from the middens of that old pueblo. I can try to butcher the name of it, but it's where Coronado National Monument is now. They named it after Coronado for some god-awful reason. I think it's called Kuwaya or something to that effect. Lots of vowels. And it's pretty cool. This jar is real interesting. This came from a dry cave on a private ranch in Gobernador Canyon. It dates from right about 1700, just after the Pueblo Revolt. In one of the other cases that we'll take a look at, I have an Ogie-Pogie polychrome that was found with it. And Linda Cordell, before she passed on, she wrote the book Southwestern Pottery, that was Southwestern Archaeology, which was the textbook for students that were going to universities for a long period of time. And she took a look at that jar, my Ogie-Pogie, and declared that it was from San Ildefonso, that it was Tewa origin, and that it was refugees from the battle at Black Mesa, the siege at Black Mesa, that had gone up and taken refuge with the Tenay up in Gobernador Canyon up by Farmington. Anyway, that's a really old, really cool jar. It's sort of, I mean, it's a historic jar technically because it's Pueblo Revolt, but it's very similar to some Jedido jars and bowls and canteens that I have over around the corner, and Jedido was one of the proto-Hopi. Okay, going over to this side, this is all San Ildefonso over here, and I've managed to get new name tags in here. I moved from my previous iteration of my gallery over at my building that I owned on 56th Avenue. I moved here, it's going on 8 years now, and I'm still unpacking. I still have potteries that I haven't unpacked that were on display in that particular first iteration of the gallery. This one is much larger, and also there's no offices. Well, there is my office, but aside from my office, there's nothing that the other place, over at my other place, I was squeezing my pottery showcases into my employees' offices, and you know, everybody dreaded the knock on the door because that would be Chuck saying, "Hey, I gotta put another showcase in here." So yeah, but that's what happens when you're addicted, and I do mean addicted to pottery. By the way, don't want to skip by these. There's all kinds of cornmeal boxes in here. Juanita Wopine, Lupita Martinez, another Juanita Wopine down here at the bottom. But back here in the back, Maximiliana Montoya, and up here is a Marian Julian, and there's a Marian Julian, and there's a Marian Julian red cylinder. Oh, there's more. I don't know. There's a lot. I have more. I have an entire area devoted to cornmeal boxes down the way. This is a little bit unusual. These are really chunky and clunky old micaceous pieces, which could be Santa. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're Tewa, but they could be Santa, could be Santa Clara, could be Okewinge. But the bottom line is I really like old utilitarian ware, which is not something that any of the museums are going to show you. Again, this is the largest collection in the world. And so as a consequence, when you're coming in here and you're looking at the Pueblo pottery, some of it, for example, like this wonderful jar up here, it's huge, and it came from the Denver Art Museum. It was collected by Frederick Douglass, their really famous curator. And unfortunately, in 2004, they got a bug up their butt and decided to sell 400 of their best pieces. And I wasn't able to buy many of the really high-stepping ones, but I bought as many as I could. I think I bought more than 70. And so those are here. The jar up here, it's in the San Ildefonso area because I'm out of room in the Zuni area. That is actually a Zuni cream on red. And if you take a look at it, the fact that it has those raised shoulders, very, very unusual and rare. I'm sure that Frederick Douglass was quite proud of it. But for whatever reason, in their infinite wisdom, they decided to sell it off. Within the Santa stuff that's here, there's lots and lots of Marie and Julian. I'm probably the only collector in the world that has a 12-inch Marie and Julian sitting down in the corner on the floor. It's got a little chip, repair chip to it, but nonetheless, it's a Marie and Julian, and I'm running out of space. I need more cases. As you can see, I've almost got pottery touching in some of these cases, and some of these, like, oh my God, these are some of my really prized possessions. These are Marianita Roy Ball. She was the first Pueblo potter to ever sign. She signed a piece that she gave to the new governor of New Mexico when New Mexico became a state. And after that, other Pueblo potters slowly began to sign, mostly with Marie and Julian, because they led the way because they were trying to sell in places like the Pan American Exposition. But if you take a look, I have these wonderful christening jars, double-oak christening jars, and lots of, you just won't see these. These are San Ildefonso figural polychromes. I was told that the bird here is by Marie and Julian, and I've got another one back there. But I don't know. You know, when they're unsigned, it's very difficult to tell. There are people that are way smarter than me about these things, but I don't care. My goal is to put together a reference collection and to let other people take a look at it and decide for themselves who and what and where and why. But I keep adding because you can't have too many examples of things like Tonita Roy Ball, black on red, or these just stunning picture that's back here. It's just so beautiful. And oh my goodness, I mean, you start looking at all these different pieces and it's hard not to get super excited. I mean, I get excited all the time just going through here. This one was an owl effigy. If you take a look at it, this one, the design on this one always blows people away. Probably both by Tonita Roybal. And then my friend Gilbert Sanchez. Gilbert is wacky as hell, but he does things for me that, like Mr. Roboto back there in the back, and the skull from King Kong, and we've got our Wookiee up here, and we've got Yoda, and oh my God, but he really is a great potter too. And so he knows that I have a fascination with Avanus, so he did an Avanus, just a regular representation of one, but then he did a mace, which is an Avanus, and it's also a pipe. Oh my God, Gilbert is a genius, and really is unrecognized for how great he is. His mom, Kathy Sanchez, does wonderful work. She was one of the first people to work with green. Tse-Pei did that. It's done with copper oxide. And so there's a lot of that now, but it was pioneered by just a few people, and Kathy and Tse-Pei were some of the earliest to use it. Down here in the bottom is the Oogie Pogie polychrome that I was talking about. That's actually the only unrestored one in existence. Most of the Oogie Pogie polychromes, there's 3 of them that they have at CU that Earl Morris found. And again, it's in doubt as to whether those are going to be allowed to continue to exist. Yeah, I mean, it really kind of freaks me out a little bit, because I am a huge fan of indigenous rights, but I'm also a history person, and I don't like the thought of anything being destroyed that helps us to understand people that came before. And you know, there's a lot of weirdness out there in the world, and there's reasons why some of this stuff they want it gone and buried and never see it again. But yeah, you can overdo a good thing, and so I'm hoping that doesn't happen. Check out this black on red. That is so cool. And this one was actually attributed specifically to Tonita Roybal. But that's it for, this is about 2,000 pieces out of 11,000. And I'll try and get the aisle next to us clear. I did a little video yesterday where I showed, oh, this is all Cochiti back here. Cochiti's got to have its own minute because it's just too cool. Same with Zia. I'll try and do both of those together. But this aisle is totally blocked right now, and so I get to spend the rest of my day putting things away. God, there's just such really, really cool stuff that's here. Speaking of cornmeal boxes, this is actually a Salado corrugated, and that's from about the year 1275. You don't get any rarer than that, and most people, well, first off, you'll never see it in a museum, and second off, most people wouldn't understand what they were seeing if they saw it. And that, God, I get a little discouraged sometimes because I live with the pottery every day, and so for me, it's a constancy of learning, reading. Just this morning, for example, I found out that when John Wesley Powell got the material from the Stevensons when they raided the Pueblos, most specifically Zuni, but when they raided all of the Pueblos in their expedition of 1879, I mean, they showed up with armed cavalrymen and said the U.S. government wants your stuff. And they sent back 3,300 pieces that they liberated from the Pueblos. And I thought that all that stuff was still at the Smithsonian, but it turns out that John Wesley Powell started trading it off and giving it away to other museums, including museums in Europe. The minute that he got it, and that almost none of it was still there by the year 1900. So life is just full of peculiarities. Well, that's it. I've walked you through this aisle. There's 3 more aisles, the mezzanine, and then my office, which has Santa Clara, 2,000 pieces of Santa Clara. This is my dog, Nikki. And then up here is, this is all Mexican. And, oh wait, there's an Ogie-Pogie polychrome that's been restored, huge one that's there in the corner. And I've been told that one's Tewa also. But the rest of this is Mexican and Central Americans, a little tiny bit of South American. Almost all the South American is just repos, but I keep things around so that people can learn. So I'd be happy to hear any feedback that you might have. And if you want to come visit the Pueblo Treasures Museum, write to me at Chuck Rozanski, one word, R-O-Z-A-N-S-K-I, Chuck Rozanski at gmail.com. I travel a lot, a lot of times trying to track down more potteries. So you got to write to me, because I do the vacuuming, I clean the shelves, not as often as I want, but you know, I'm the only one working here. So this is my enterprise, and thank goodness that it is, because it's still something that you can visit. You can't go to the the American Museum of Natural History. They closed their halls. You can't go. Well, the Field Museum in Chicago, I think, is going to reopen, but Harvard is getting rid of a bunch of their stuff. I mean, it's just right now this could be the decimation of most of the larger museum holdings. So if you want to see something that's really cool, this is going to be the only place that you can. So again, that's chuckrozanski at gmail.com. Thanks, and I'll try and do another aisle tomorrow.